Morning, everyone. Welcome to another Chatting with Wisdom. And I am super excited to be connecting with Sandra Lee again today. For those of you who do not know who Sandra is, Sandra was part of a summit that we had, and I fully enjoyed connecting with her and engaging with her. And for those of you who participated, loved having that engagement with Sandra as well. She was the most engaging speaker that we had on the summit, so it was fabulous. She had the opportunity to be able to come on the lives, and I am super excited that she's here again. So Chatting with Wisdom is all about being able to inspire women and really help to get women moving into the right direction. And so what better person to have than Sandra? So as the only practitioner combining the modalities of human design and biofield tuning, Sandra Lee is uniquely qualified to help entrepreneurs and their businesses align with integrity of their purpose and attract their perfect customers. 30 years experience doing intuitive energetic work, plus more than 8 years of human design, create a powerful foundation. The addition of sound and biofield tuning provides Sandra with the tools to support entrepreneurs in turning their dreams into successes. Sandra wrote a chapter in a best-selling book called Stop Overworking and Start Overflowing, 25 Ways to Transform Your Life Using Human Design. Her chapter demonstrates the impact combining human design and biofield tuning for accelerating the success of your business. She is available to speak on various topics and has been featured in numerous interviews. She blogs and writes articles appearing in industry publications. Sandra is passionate about helping people live their best lives and works with individuals and businesses. She also leads group sessions on mental health and clarity, manifesting an abundance and success, defining integrity, amplifying purpose, and creating success. And she always ends with breathe. So welcome, Sandra. How are you?
Thank you, Rollie. It's wonderful to be invited to do this. And I wrote that a long time ago. So I was like, oh, that's right. That's what I said.
So I am excited that you are here today. And I'm also excited to share that I have participated in sessions with Sandra very successfully and have really loved the insight that Sandra has been able to provide in human design. I've had many human design readings over the years with different practitioners for different reasons and different insights. But I really love the insights that Sandra was able to bring forward in my life currently in this state, and so that I know where I'm moving forward and how to be able to gain that clarity. So welcome. How are you?
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you. And I want to say about what you were just talking about, human design, it gives you a chart based on your birth date that says a lot about who you are. So it's like, this is what it looks like. And I could talk about the chart for hours. So since you already had a foundational understanding of your chart, what I was able to do was take the problems, the life situations you were dealing with, and help you see from the perspective of your chart, of your gifts, why those things might be happening, and give you practical ways to help manage it. And it sounds like that has been supportive and useful.
It definitely has been, and with the recording. So Sandra also does a recording, and so apparently I'm her flashboard today. And she also provides a recording, so which was wonderful, because then that will give me the opportunity to be able to go back on it in a month, or go back on it in a couple of months or 6 months or a year. That will give me the opportunity to be able to say, okay, so where are things at from where things were then, and how do I move forward from here? So thank you so much for that. And so do you want to tell me a little bit more about how you incorporate the human design and biofield tuning?
So since we've just been talking about human design, I'm going to talk a little bit about what biofield tuning is. So it's using this tuning fork and a hockey puck to make sounds, and that activates the energy field of you, the person I'm working with. So I create a hologram that represents you, and I'm working with you virtually on Zoom. And when this first started happening, it's like, wow, I can actually really do this on Zoom. It's actually really cool. But so I'm working with your energy field. And, when we were talking in the Secret Power of Seven Summit, we were talking about chakras and the energy centers. And the chakras are in the human design chart, and they're in the energy field. And I started, when I was doing Biofield Tuning, seeing the human design chart laid over the biofield. And I realized that I was able to work with them together. So it's like there's a lot of different approaches to healing, a lot of different approaches to understanding life, a lot of different guidance systems, astrology, all these different things. And they all provide healing. What I find so valuable is they all work on the same issues. They all work on the same things that people have struggled with for all of human existence. They're really the same things. And when I can work on those issues from multiple different directions, it enables me to have more of an impact. So if I do, like, say, just counseling, if I just do talk therapy, and it's like, that's all I'm doing, I'm only approaching it from one direction. And for me, if I'm stuck on something, if I'm approaching it from only one direction, say counseling, I'm able to kind of get around it and escape and avoid really dealing with whatever it is that I'm struggling with. But if I'm approaching it with counseling, and I'm approaching with massage, and I'm approaching it with, energy healing, and if I'm approaching it with astrology, and I'm approaching with human design, all of these different approaches, a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's harder for me, this person in here who's really holding on and stuck, it's harder for me to stay stuck when I approach things from multiple different directions. So I've always been someone who works with a lot of different practitioners, a lot of different approaches, because that enables me to get different perspectives, different ideas, different inputs, and I'm more likely to find something that actually helps me get out of that rut that I'm in. So I find combining these two modalities of human design and biofield tuning is really effective at doing that.
And it was really interesting when I was reading your bio, that I'm getting an echo. Are you getting an echo? Okay, well, I'm getting an echo of myself. So when I was doing, it just went away. I'm not sure what it was that was happening. But when I was actually reading your bio, because I never read the bios beforehand, the only reason I knew anything about Sandra is because Sandra participated in the summit, and I took advantage of being able to have a few sessions with her, because I was really interested and intrigued in how she was able to bring these two things together. So I've had a couple of sessions with her, and I really enjoyed that. And but when I was reading your bio today, one of the things that was really interesting to me was that you are in a book that I own, that I had purchased, that I didn't realize that you were in. So I have to go back and read your chapter, because I'm sure I read it, but I did not pay attention to it. So I have to go back and read your chapter in the book, because Christy was in our women's conference back in March. And so she was one of our speakers in our back in March. And so I had purchased the book back then. And I've read through the book, and I've done some of the practical things that people had actually suggested. And so now I have to go back and look for your chapter in the book. So I'm really looking forward to because then it really makes a difference when it's like, oh, I know this person, I get to read what it is that she says, or at least I know that's it for me. So I love being able to do that part. So so I thought that was actually kind of interesting that you were able to do that. So now, one of the things that you talked about was that you also incorporate massage. And I know that you obviously don't do that when you're doing it virtually, but when you see people in person, you incorporate it with massage as well. So do you want to tell me a little bit about that background?
I've been doing massage therapy for 30 years. So all of that really predated working with biofield tuning and human design. And I've always worked with the blocks of energy and the flow of the energy. And so when I'm working with someone physically, I can kind of sense what's going on in the energy in their whole body and their whole system. And I work with the mental and emotional issues that relate to that area. So for example, looking at shoulders and neck, this is an area where people feel pressures, stress, responsibilities, and all sorts of life issues that weigh on people's shoulders, like, carrying the weight of the world in this yoke of responsibility. And so when I'm working on this area, it naturally comes up to me to address, okay, so what stresses and pressures are you experiencing? And when we move that stuff around, that can activate symptoms. So looking at that and mentioning that to the person so that they are able to mentally make a connection between this symptom that they're having and the life circumstances, the stresses. And so when people make that connection consciously, they're able to possibly no longer have to have the symptom. I look at symptoms as being my body and my beingness trying to get my attention. There's something that needs to be addressed in my life, and the only way my body has is to say, I hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm not paying attention to the signal, then it gets louder.
Yeah.
When I do get the message, oh, this is what you're trying to communicate to me. Okay, body, we don't have to have the symptom. We can negotiate with the body. I got the message. Thank you. Symptom can release.
And it really is all about that energetics, eh? Like it's and I know that it sounds crazy to some, right? So, but because I've been doing it for such a long time, it's just natural with me. And so one of the things that I've always, that I've followed for years and years and years has been Louise Hay. And I have her handy little book that I pull out every time that it's like, oh, body symptom, what's going on? Or if I'm doing an energy healing on someone and the shoulder comes up, then I look up the shoulder and share what is the affirmation that she attaches to that. And it really does make a difference because it does create that awareness of what it is that's going on and what it is that's happening. And so I know that over the years, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing about my broken leg, but my broken leg was really about not listening to the signs and symptoms, and the messages were coming beforehand. And when I actually self-reflect and I actually think back, and it's like, oh, back in February, this was going on, back in whatever. And so the broken leg was just a fluke. I happened to just be walking. And so like, I didn't do anything extravagant. I was like walking on a hiking trail that I've been doing since I'm a little girl. And I just happened to, but it stopped me dead in my tracks. It stopped me because I wasn't listening to the signs earlier that was saying, slow down, take a step back. Self-reflect. Where are you going? What are you doing? You're not following your plan. You're completely off the path. And so it's like, okay, so now I don't have a choice. And so I thought that the message initially was simply, okay, slow down, ask for help. Okay, I've done that. Well, then something else happened. And then something else happened. And I'm like, okay, seriously, body? Like, what are you trying to tell me? Because I don't know anymore. And so then I just really needed to take a step back. So it wasn't just about stopping and asking for help. I really needed to take a step back and seeing, where do I need to go? What is it that I need to be doing? And really having and I still don't have a clear path. I still don't have a clear insight as to where it is that I'm going. But when I broke my leg, it was like, oh yeah, six to 8 weeks that I'm going to be up and moving around and everything's going to be good. Well, then I go back and see the surgeon, and I luckily didn't have to have surgery. And he's like, nope, you have another 3 weeks. You have another 4 weeks. You now have another. And so even when I went to see him for my final appointment, is that the fracture is still there. So if I don't listen, and I'm not doing what it is that I need to be doing, all I have to do is turn on my ankle, just a slight, and I'm going to snap it again. So I'm very cautious. I'm very careful as to what it is that I need to be doing. So because I know that it's still not fully healed, so I still have some work to do. And so now I've actually been able to take a step back and say, okay, so yes, I'm still not done unpacking, but it's coming, because I was like, oh, I'm going to be ready to go, and I'm going to be able to have clients again by August and in the new place, and everything's going to be settled. And now it's like, I take it one day at a time, and which is what I say with my clients, right? So I take it one day at a time. Where's my next step? Take a look at my list. What do I need to remove from my list because I've got too many things on my list to try and handle? And how that came about was I saw Sandra to be able to, because as I started moving forward, my other foot started giving me some trouble. And I'm like, okay, so I know that it's because I'm imbalanced and all that kind of thing. But again, I still wasn't listening. So even in my session with Sandra, then I ended up with this pinch in my neck that literally knocked me on my keister, that I could not sit. I had to try and figure out different ways of being able to position. I couldn't reach for things, which means that I couldn't unpack any more boxes. Everything was like, even doing laundry was a chore. I have 3 baskets of laundry that I can now, over the next couple of days, get put into the dresser and the drawers, because all we've been doing is just doing laundry, putting it in the drawer and in the basket, and we've been living out of the basket because I couldn't even do that basic task of just putting my clothes away in the drawer because I couldn't stretch in that level. And so it's just about being able to tune in and listening to what is it that is happening. And so I traveled yesterday, and that was where I gained my insight. I need to travel more. I stopped traveling because of COVID, and because there's too many places that I couldn't go into. And so it was just a nuisance to go. So I just stopped traveling. But my traveling, that gives me, I put audiobooks on, or I listen to music, and it gives me that time to be able to reflect. And so I got my ahas in that travel. And so going back into the meditation, going back into the things that we need to be doing will also help us find that purpose and connecting with the way that we need to be and getting out of our ego, right? So that is really important. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Sandra?
Yeah. So Rollie, for those of you watching, is really good at this. She's been self-reflecting like this for a really long time. And so she's illustrating that when she does this self-reflection, she gets information. Oh, what is it I'm supposed to be paying attention to? And she gets that information. Sometimes she and you and me are not able to, even with that self-reflection, to get it. Because the truth is, I am too close to my stuff to be able to see it. And so there's this concept that I call getting an outside of my head perspective. This is where so much of the value of working with practitioners comes from. When you are working with any expert in any area, they can provide you with information, with insight, with perspective that you don't get, either because you don't know the information or because you're too close to it to see yourself and your stuff. Okay. So when I'm doing biofield tuning, and also when I'm doing human design, but when I'm doing biofield tuning, I'm striking the tuning fork, and it like activates all kinds of information in my intuitive sense. And I kind of see where the issue the person is struggling with and issues in their life and their energy field in their body. I see things all connected up together. So I can see when I am working with this shoulder, oh, the person not feeling safe, that's in their feet. That's connected to the neck. Oh, this is connected to the lower back and the instability and the fear about money and the relationship things they're struggling with. That's relating to what's going on in the neck. Oh, there's this issue going on in your work or in your family. And these different things, they're all tied to this one area. So part of why so many people have symptoms in their neck and shoulders is because everything, all of the stresses, all of the issues, all tie back to this place. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the lower back. So many people have lower back issues. Lower back and neck are actually connected. So it's like when I'm doing the Biofield Tuning session or when I'm doing body work, which I'm not doing so much anymore, but I was like, I see the energetic connections between the areas and the issues in the person's life, the things that they are struggling with, the things that they are dealing with. And so starting to do Biofield Tuning, something about this particular modality really activated a lot of my intuitive capacities. So it's like I was getting intuitive information before. It's like amped up the amount of information I receive, the relevance of the information I receive, and the accuracy of what I get. And so I get information that the person didn't tell me about themselves. And I see it tied up in the connection to whatever it is they're struggling with.
And I really love that. And I always call it the spider web, right? Because like it all interlinks and all those things. And you were talking about like how everything all connects. And I don't know who this doctor is. There's a doctor of naturopath that I see her reels that come up, and I'm always really fascinated. So, and because I know like how all of it connects, but she really does a lot of the, okay, so like in this part of, and I can't quote what it is that she was saying, but like in this part, like if you're having, and may not be headaches, but like if you're having headaches, like you go between these two joints and you do this, or oh, you have a headache, go to your knees, and like the different things like that. So I really love her connections, because it really does make a difference as to how it connects. And I know about reflexology, I just don't know all the different parts and how all of it works. But like she really connects all these different things. And so if one particular spot doesn't work for you, I've noticed that because it's been a couple of months that I've been seeing her different reels. And so she has different areas of the body that will actually help to improve the same thing. So somebody who's having difficulty sleeping, she has where you're hitting in the back of, there's certain pressure points behind your back, the back of your head. But then there's also here where it actually helps to release melatonin. And it's like, okay, so like if this one doesn't work for you, then this one might work for you, and that kind of thing. So I really love how she really brings all of these different things together that allows you to be able to say, okay, well, let's try this and let's try this, because I personally try to stay away from medications if I can. So I do not discourage people from using medication because it is essential and is important. But for me, I don't have great side effects from medication. So I really try and stay away from them as much as possible. And so it makes a huge difference when I can find something else that will allow me to be able to find a different way or a different approach, and that's one of the reasons why I use other practitioners to be able to help me do the things that I need to be doing. So I use Reiki healing energy on people all the time, but it's better for me to be able to have somebody else do the session for me, because then it keeps me out of my head. When I do my own self Reiki, I still stay in my head. Whereas when somebody else is doing it, I can actually kick back, relax, and I allow my whole body to be able to do it. So I love how you were talking about how it's like close in your face, right? So it really makes a huge impact. And even when you're just reading, right? So like listening to the audiobook, it was like, oh, that's how that connected with my session with Jeremy. That's how that connected with my session with Sandra, right? So like it just really kind of brings it all together. And it's like, oh, okay, so like that's where things are.
Everything that's ever happened to me, positive and not so positive, it's all stored in the energy field. It's all stored in the body. And then like all of my issues, that's like this big mass. Everything in my life that I am dealing with, it's in this mass. Mm-hmm. So everything affects everything. And like you're talking about, if I can start to pull out individual little bits of this knot and start to unwind them, right? If I'm working up here, it's going to affect down here too. So it's like, if I'm working on what's going on with my neck, it's going to affect my back. It's going to affect my relationships. It's going to affect my effectiveness in my work, so that I start to be able to unwind this big mass. You know, we know that there's always more learning to do, always more growing to do, always more healing, right? So I'm always going to have a mass here, but is it all tight and restricting me, or is it like, a little bit more malleable and flexible? So the more I unwind this through the various modalities, the more freedom I start being able to have.
And it really does make a difference in terms of that word freedom, right? So, and like our movement literally has been stilted, and so now we're starting to move. And I'm not sure how things are out west where you are, but a couple of days ago, like I saw, like I was driving, we were having to go to town with my husband, and all he kept talking about was all the chemtrails and all the chemtrails, and it was like, okay, I'm tired of hearing about the chemtrails. I know, I see all the chemtrails. Well, then go back to scrolling on Facebook later on in the day, and it's like people are taking pictures of the chemtrails, and I'm like, okay, I got it. And so because like now movement is not as restricted, and there is more things happening, and so like there is more pollution coming, whereas when it first happened, when we got restricted and everything shut down, well then it was brighter and the pollution levels had decreased, and like there was lots of newscasts and stuff that were actually talking about how the pollution had actually dropped because we weren't moving. And so I just thought that was really interesting, how that movement affects our world. And this week was a prime example of how, now that things have been lifted and there's very little restrictions now, you see how things are coming back into cycle. So it's really interesting. I love how that comes together. So tell me a little bit more about how you live your purpose with human design. So like, tell me a little bit more about that.
So the human design chart has what we call definition. Everything that's colored in on my chart is what we call definition. And all of these energies here are describing themes in my life. And there's going to be stronger themes up here at the top. Those are going to be stronger themes than these, but they're all going to fit together into a picture of my life. And, a lot of people have the experience of not knowing what my purpose is. How is it I serve? You've probably worked with some of those people.
Yep.
Okay. So when we look at the human design chart, I help them understand these themes in their life. And these are all expressions of your gifts, of your strengths. And the way that we conventionally talk about purpose and the benefits you provide is looking at your skills, the knowledge you have, the education you have, the experience you have. And those are all wonderful. Those are all aspects of how you contribute. But the human design chart, the themes in the human design chart are more foundational. The themes in my chart will be expressed no matter what I'm doing in any area of life, 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you understand that foundational piece, you start to see it everywhere. So, the central themes in my chart are about truth and integrity, and the absence of truth and integrity, and being in control. So these are things that sometimes I might see as being a problem, difficulty. We think of control as being a negative thing. I'm too controlling, or other people are too controlling of me. But when I understand, these are actually gifts. So truth and integrity, or the absence of truth and integrity, I am always striving to make things better for myself, for other people, for my clients, for the house, for the world, always in some way or other, helping myself and others be better. So having there be more truth, more integrity in the world. When I understood that, changed everything. So I go about my life and I'm interacting with people as I'm walking downtown, and I realize that just by being me and interacting with this person, I am having that person have more of an experience of truth in their life, having things be better in their life. I had a lovely conversation with a man outside the library yesterday as I was walking back to my car, right? And we got into this wonderful conversation, and his life and my life is richer better, more enjoyment, more fun, more knowledge for having had this casual interaction. I recognize that as an expression of my gift, of my purpose in the world. And so for each person, they have these particular foundational energies, gifts, contributions that they make. And the human design chart helps you understand that. And I, as a business owner, I do a lot of networking. You do a lot of networking too. So when I'm networking with somebody and I am hearing them talk about themselves and I'm talking about myself, I get curious. Oh, I wonder how what they just talked about shows up in their human design chart. And I did this with the man outside the library on my way back to my car yesterday. I got so curious about what he was saying about himself that I pulled out my iPad and I ran a human design chart right there. And I told him something about himself and how he thinks and how he operates in the world that totally shifted how he perceives himself. This aspect of his life that he never would have pulled out as a strength, as a way that he contributes. He now says, oh, that's me giving my gift.
Yeah.
And having this conversation, casual conversation with a stranger, right? I suddenly get to a level of relationship with this person that would not have been possible if we hadn't had that level of conversation. Because I know something like really central to who this person is in the world and what's important to them. In a on the street outside the library conversation, I reach a level of connectedness with someone that's really pretty profound.
Well, and one of the things that was really interesting is that as you were talking and you were sharing about the insights and how all these things came, and I know that there's lots of rumbling going on outside my house, and because they're doing construction work outside the house, but just as you were talking about his revelation, I don't know whether or not you heard it, but like the whole house was vibrating because they're doing something literally right there, but it was like in sync, right? So it was that synchronicity of like, oh, that full truth. And so a lot of times when people are talking or when things are happening is that I get goosebumps. And so, and it was like this whole rumbling of like, not only did I get goosebumps, but the whole house shook. In terms of like that connection. And so again, it's listening to your body and listening to the things and listening to those messages of like what's happening, what's going on, and how does that relate to me, right? So I have these feathers that I found. I actually take them together because it was like, oh, Alexis was really looking for a feather because she wanted to be able to have a feather in her but every time that she would find a feather, well, then she would end up breaking it because she'd stick it in her coat pocket or whatever. So I was out for a walk and I found a feather, and then another feather came up and another feather came up. And so there was a total of 5 feathers that we ended up finding on that walk. And not that I don't ever see feathers, but like they were these perfect feathers that had happened. And so when I brought the feathers in, she got to choose which feathers that she wanted to be able to keep. And so what was really interesting is that these ones here, they didn't line up. So I was like doing my, in my ego brain, trying to get all my everything straight. So I was trying to put the feathers together, but then they weren't lining up and they weren't connecting together. And so then it was like, so as I was trying to find a place to put them, it was like, oh, look it, they're like butterfly wings. And so then I taped them together. So now I'm able to keep them here. And I have the 3rd feather that's just kind of sitting there. But it was like, oh, okay. So it's there and it has that connection. And but it was like, what is it that needs to happen? And for me, butterflies means transformation, right? So then again, here's another one of those messages of I wasn't supposed to try and make them fit so that I can put them side by side. I needed to make them so that they appeared like a butterfly that was actually going to provide me the wings that I needed to be able to move through whatever it is that I had going on. So, and again, those insights didn't come until I did my traveling yesterday, right? So the last day, I've had all these different insights of like, oh, that's what that message was. Oh, that's why that was happening. And so It's just being able to listen and tuning in. And because I've been so tuned out of my body that I haven't been paying attention to some of the things. And so my body has screamed at me. And so it's just a matter of being able to do that. But like, I love those idiosyncrasies. And like I said, I know that I'm going to have different times of the day that the house is going to be shaking and vibrating because they're literally working right in front of my house. But it was just like that perfect timing of what you said and how those insights and it was like this great big boom and rattle shaking that gave way into what it is that you were saying. So so I love that.
And sometimes when I'm doing biofield tuning, those things happen too. Whether, there'll suddenly be hail going outside or thunder and lightning. And it's like, incorporate it in, because it's not accidental.
Yep.
Right? It's happening for a reason, to call attention to something or contribute energy to something. Yeah, a shift that is ready to take place, perhaps.
So, and I love that. I love how that happens. And so you have an offer, you have something that people are able to connect with you. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about that?
So if people want to possibly work with me, then I offer, a discovery call, a free consultation, where we just talk about what it is you want and what it is you've got now and what's keeping you from getting from where you are to where you want. And to see if maybe doing human design and biofield tuning might be able to serve you and help you get to where you want to go. So that's free. If you go to my website, miracleinspirations.com, there's a place where you can just schedule a call with me. And then I also have a Making Powerful and Effective Decisions checklist that you can go and that will help you make decisions with more ease.
Beautiful. So I love chatting with you, and I have really enjoyed our connections, and look forward to continuing to work with you both personally and professionally. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to expand. And so if you have the opportunity, set up a call with Sandra just to have a conversation. And because I had been having a lot of conversations, I just booked a call. I booked a session, I should say. But she has that opportunity where you're able to book a session first, book a call first, so that you can decide whether or not this is a good fit for you. So, but I know that I personally have really enjoyed the work and the outcomes that I've had with Sandra. So thanks, everybody. And is there anything else that you wanted to share before we head out?
I like to tell people that you are always living your purpose. You're always making a difference 24/7, no matter what it is you're doing. Because there's a lot of people out there that don't feel like they make a difference. They don't feel like they're doing enough, or they don't know what it is they're supposed to be doing, how it is they want to serve. So I want you to know that no matter what, you are always serving, always contributing a purpose.
Beautiful. So thanks so much, Sandra. And for everyone else, I will see you next week with another inspiring woman, and we get to move forward today. So have a fabulous day and great day. Bye for now.
Thank you.